This is a really good book if you like the words. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 books that will destroy, ruin, demolish your hearts and your minds. Now, what do I mean by that exactly? This is going to be a pretty vast array of books, even though it's only 5. It's going to be anywhere from depraved to tragic to just outright weird. I didn't really know how to categorize these books, so that's what this video is going to be for. I'm not going to be talking about House of Leaves, even though that's a great book, obviously, and kind of would fall into this category. I feel like it's been talked about to death. And even a few of these books have probably been talked about to death, but I want to talk about them in this very specific sphere of things that will either mentally drain you, emotionally drain you, or will just straight up weird you out. All right? All right, first up, we're going to be talking about Dom Casmurro by Machado de Assis from Brazil. This book, this writer has become one of my favorites. The Portuguese language has produced some of the best writers uh, ever. I mean, Clarice Lispector, I could have put any number of her books on this list as well. But this guy and Fernando Pessoa, which I talked about, I think, in my first video, he's from Portugal, not Brazil, but the world of Portuguese language literature is very underrated in my opinion, probably not in the scope of the world itself. This book specifically, what is it about? Basically, it's about this guy. It's from first person perspective. The chapters are very short, episodic, which I really like. Basically, it's about this guy. He has a childhood friend. He falls in love with a girl, and they both fall in love with different women who are all friends. Everybody's all friends. The protagonist has a child with his wife Capitu. Over time, this child, his son, starts to resemble his best friend. And so throughout the novel, through the perspective of this man, through our protagonist, you're trying to figure out, did Capitu cheat? Is this child the protagonist or is it his friends? I'm not going to go into any spoilers in any of these books I'm going to try not to anyway, but you're inside the headspace of the main character throughout the whole time. And it's almost journalistic. It feels very private. Yeah, like there's still debate about this book, like I think over 100 years later. This book was written in like the late 1800s. And despite that, it's very modern feeling. Like, yeah, you can tell there's some antiquated language, but it's a very easy read for what it is, for the time period it's written from. Very funny, too, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know. This guy's other book, which is also very good, Epitaph of a Small Winter, also known as The Posthumous Memoirs of Brás Cubas, written in a similar style, also very, very good. I think this one is more, the wheels in your head are constantly spinning, like, did she cheat? And there's conversations that are had, and the subtext is very hostile and thick, even if the surface layer conversation is very normal and civil. There's a mask of civility throughout the whole book, which is just constantly undermined by these secret questions, these pleas for answers that you don't get a lot of. There's one scene in particular. I'm going to try not to spoil anything, but there's one scene in particular after this devastating realization hits our narrator, and he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He's just trying to figure out, did she cheat? Did she not cheat? Have I been raising someone else's child this whole time? There's a scene in the book where he's alone with his friend's wife. There's a moment between the two of them which is so harrowing and really good. My pulse quickened, I'll say that much when I read that. All right, so moving on, we have the Border Trilogy by Cormac McCarthy. Now, I'm kind of cheating because this is 3 books in one, but it's one book. So specifically, I'm referring to the second story in the trilogy, which is The Crossing. I could have chosen any one of these 3 for this video, and this is going to be more on the tragic side. If you know anything about Cormac McCarthy, he does not write happy stories, not at all. But The Crossing is my favorite of the 3. I think it is the most gut-wrenching because I can tell you like the basic outline of the story. As it's outlined, I used to have these books separately. When you go to the back of the book of The Crossing, and it gives you a little blurb. It basically tells you that there's a young boy in like the 20s or 30s. Him and his brother discover that there's a she-wolf who is basically around their property, kind of messing things up from what I remember. And they end up, kind of going on this adventure involving the she-wolf and capturing the she-wolf. And you get to a point in the book where the main plot ends. What you were told is the story ends, and then you still have a lot of book left. And that is when the other shoe falls and it becomes an outright Greek tragedy. I mean, I could have chosen Blood Meridian for this video for a whole other host of reasons. I mean, it's a very bleak book. It's one of my favorite novels ever. It might very well be Cormac McCarthy's best, but I wanted to do something a little different. And so I chose The Crossing. Read all three of these books. Read the entire trilogy. Please, please, please read this. If you don't read anything else by Cormac McCarthy, I don't know how that's even possible. But The Crossing, especially, is, in my opinion, the best of the three, just because of the gut punch of you get to that point in the book where you're told, oh yeah, this is the story, and you get to the point and then there's so much left and you're like, oh God, so much has already happened. What more could be in store? Well, a lot more. Next up, this is a really good book if you like the words piss and cunt. This is The Story of the Eye by George Bataille. Now, I am not a big fan of transgressive fiction. I'm not a big fan of shock for shock value, or even erotica for that matter. And this is all those in one. But there's just something about it, as disgusting as it is, and this is a disgusting book, and it's very small, thank God. But there's something about it that it feels like it's about more than what you're reading. It is absolutely deplorable. It is depraved. It's perverted. It's French, of course, it's French. But there's something to it that even when you get to the end of it, you're like, you feel like it's high literature for whatever reason. I can't explain it. It's just written really well, despite the disgusting things it describes. It's about this young couple, this young boy and this young girl, arguably too young, but again, it's French, so they're perverts, who, I don't want to say they fall in love, but they definitely do care for each other deeply. They explore each other's bodies and emotions, and they push the boundaries to the point where, are there even boundaries anymore? And that's all I can give away about Story of the Eye. Definitely read it. You will be grossed out. This is almost a horror story in a way. Definitely a gross out. But I think you'll either love it and you'll kind of get it, even if you don't fully understand the whole subconscious of it, or you'll just be disgusted. All right, next up, the fourth book here, God Emperor of Dune. Now, I've read the entire Dune saga. I read it last year. One of the greatest science fiction sagas ever. I'm not really a big fan of science fiction, to be honest, but there's something about Frank Herbert's writing and the Dune saga. It's about so many different things. It's not just about spice and sandworms. It's about realpolitik. It's about the encroachment of AI. It's about the psychology of religion, gender politics, the dynamics and polarity between the sexes, and power. And one of my favorite quotes from the series, I can't remember which book specifically, is that power does not corrupt. The corruptible seek out power. And I found that to be true. I've learned so much from these books. But anyway, getting back to God Emperor of Dune specifically, I could have picked, similar to a lot of these, I could have picked any one of these in the saga because they're all strange. But to me, God Emperor of Dune is where there's a certain point of no return. This is when it gets over the top weird, okay? A movie is about to come out, Dune 3, which is, I believe, Dune Messiah. Villeneuve, or however you say his name, did 3 movies, which were great. Probably the greatest interpretation of any part of these books. The first 2 movies were covering the first book, and the third will cover the second book, and he's going to end it there. Now, I'm not going to get give anything away, that's not the end of the story. That is not the end of the Dune universe at all. But I understand after reading the series, after reading the saga, I understand why he's stopping the movies there. Because beyond that, this is when it gets just fucking strange. Heretics of Dune is my favorite. It's my favorite book in the series. But if we're talking about weird and a point, like to the point where you're just like, okay, this is a whole other thing now. God Emperor of Dune. Some of the greatest monologues, too. Some of the greatest pieces of dialogue are in this book specifically. But I mean, just the Dune saga as a whole is a treasure trove of knowledge, of quotes, of just reflections on so many different things. You got to read it. Read the whole saga if you can. But I just want to highlight God Emperor of Doom because, man, that is where the rubber meets the road, in my opinion. They're all weird. They're all strange. God Emperor is the no turning back point. Last but not least, we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Now, listen, elephant in the room. I am not watching the new movie. Don't get me wrong. Emerald Fennell is a fine director. I think she did Saltburn. I think her style of directing did justice to something like Saltburn. I actually have a Saltburn poster like right in front of me. However, there's no way anyone can do justice to this book. I don't think anyone has. I've heard some people say that there's series that go into more of the detail that are perhaps better. I can't say from experience. But people were going to ask, like, how can you judge a movie when you haven't seen it? You know, listen, if you've read the book and you know anything about the characters, right away when you see the casting choices, if she can't get that right, there's no way she gets anything else right. And I fear that so many people are going to watch that movie and either like it or hate it for the completely wrong reasons. She would be rolling over in her grave. Listen, Emily Bronte was a genius. All the Bronte sisters were brilliant. Emily's my favorite because of this book and because of her poetry. She only wrote the one novel, and it's absolutely amazing. Is Wuthering Heights a romance story? Yes, but it's not romantic in our modern sense of the word. It is not a dark romantasy. This is not like this is not some like toxic book talk femcel dream where the guy is crazy and dangerous, blah blah blah. No. This book is absolutely insane. It is about two people whose relationship with each other, whether it's good, bad, evil, love, hate, jealousy, whatever, classism, whatever, it ruins and destroys everyone around them. Everyone. Okay? Because they are selfish, they are terrible people, but they are very attractive and entertaining to read about. And they're fully fledged people. They're complex. Heathcliff is one of the most complex characters. This is not Jane Austen, okay? This is fucking Wuthering Heights. It's gothic. It's dark. It's insane. There's people digging up, graves. I'm not going to say any more. It's a horror story. There's ghosts. It's also a frame narrative. There's somebody telling the story by reading journal entries from what I remember. It's kind of hard to describe. This is a brilliant book. Do not let the most recent movie and reviews paint. Just read the book. Just read the book. I've read this book like 3 or 4 times. It's one of my favorites. It's absolutely incredible. And it is absolutely insane. So anyway, those are my 5 picks of books that will ruin your heart and your mind. I could talk about each and every one of these books for hours on end, but I just wanted to give a quick highlight. Read all these books and keep reading books. Keep watching my channel.